What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over everything you need to know about Fortnite's new South Park update. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, comment down below what you think of these changes, and if you guys would like to use my code in the item shop when getting anything, it is EvolveJake, just like my channel name is, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. So I'm going to start off with what was vaulted in this update because I think it makes sense. Some of these items were in the game, so you might see them in the gameplay background video, but they were later removed. And so Fortnite in this update vaulted both shockwave grenades and the Forsaken Vow Blade. Shockwave grenades were in initially, but then they got taken out later on. So that's why I said there's some gameplay of it. But as it is, when I'm recording this video, shockwave grenades are no longer in the loot pool for Battle Royale. The Forsaken Vow Blade is no longer in the loot pool for Battle Royale. All of the Winterfest items, except for the Snowball Launcher, were removed. The Snowball Launcher, I think, still drops from some bosses, which the Yule Trooper boss was actually removed. So the Mythic Hollow Rush SMG is gone, and the Brutus boss is now back on the map, meaning the Mythic Twin Hammer shotguns are back on the map as well. The self-revive device was vaulted in this update, and then the shield keg that was in the regular loot pool is vaulted, but you can still get it from the mending machines around the map. And these vaults have a very large impact on the game because the two kind of main or most sought after mobility items in the chapter thus far were shockwave grenades and the Forsaken Vow Blade. And it's surprising to see them both removed. I'll get into why I think shocks were removed later on in the video. We also got a few things added. Crash Pad Juniors were added as a replacement for shockwave grenades, but they now drop in stacks of 2 for some reason instead of 3 as it's been forever. The Flex SMG is a new SMG that was added, and it's basically like 2 weapons in one. When you aim down sights, it gets a slower fire rate, but increased damage. And then when you hip fire it, obviously it shoots faster, but it hits a little bit weaker. I think this is a pretty solid weapon, but not really something that's going to be used very much, at least in zero builds, because carrying 2 weapons is typically what most people want to do. And this isn't versatile enough to really fill the role of a Deadeye AR. Maybe if you enjoy sniping, you could run like shotgun, this SMG, and sniper. But despite this being a solid weapon that has an interesting quirk, with how the game plays out and how valuable your inventory slots are, dedicating an inventory slot to this SMG just didn't really feel good to me. But if you're forced to use it off spawn, it's not a bad weapon by any means. If you enjoy sniping, this might be a nice complement weapon. But aside from that, I don't really see myself using it at all. The cheesy poofs were added as a new healing item, and this has 300 amount that it can heal you, but it only heals white health. It doesn't give shield like Scooby Snacks did, and it also doesn't give the slap effect like Scooby Snacks did. So it basically just is a 300 health medkit, essentially, that you can go back to. You can throw some of it at enemies, and it will do 10 damage, but I feel like that's more of just like a joke or like a troll way to kill somebody than something that's actually effective. The Kenny respawn token is also something that was added in this update. This can be found from the healing supply drops that land on the map, or I've been told you can get it from the shooting game at Cartman Land, but it looks like a medallion with Kenny's face on it. There are multiple iterations of it on the map, though, and it doesn't show you on the map or anything like that, like medallions. But if you get eliminated and you have this in your inventory, you will actually respawn on the map, and you will come back with an AR, cheesy poofs, and I believe all of the gold that you had in your inventory when you were eliminated, and you'll just be like rifted back onto the map. How close or far away you are from your body, I feel like depends on how small the zone was, because if the map is very large, you might spawn far away, but if the map is smaller, then there's just less, places for you to spawn at, so you're probably going to be closer. But it's not like you spawn directly on your body or anything like that. I think this item, it gives you a second chance in game. I think in team game modes, this will probably be very frustrating because I could see a world in which one person has this and then just gets respawned and then reboots their team across the map. It's interesting. I think this is something that people either love or hate. Another thing that people will love or hate we'll get to in a moment, but first we're going to talk about the map changes. Clausy Lodge is still here, which was the POI added for Winterfest, but the snow around it and the lake next to it have melted. There's not really any snow on the map anymore, except for around the Cartman Land POI, which has replaced Wonky Land, but to my understanding, it's still very similar to how it was previously. It basically just got the South Park coat of paint on it, but the layout of the POI, I think, is still mostly the same. And you still have, like, the shooting game there, like how you did previously, and the roller coasters that you can ride or get stuck on, depending on the situation you're in. Not the most map changes, but there is some amount of map changes. I think the most impactful thing in this update is going to be the Stick of Truth. And this spawns as like a rift anomaly. Just randomly at some point during the game, it can spawn. And then it will be marked on the map for everybody. And once somebody gets it, the zone will center on that player and then close within 5 minutes, which is typically much faster than how the game would have normally ended. It basically forces the game to end quickly wherever the person who has the stick is, and it creates some very like chaotic moments where everyone is kind of just forced to rush there, and then the storm hits much harder at that point as well. And this is my kind of guess as to why shockwave grenades were vaulted, because this creates a scenario where there's a lot of people left in a small zone, and the storm is hitting pretty hard. And in that situation, you can imagine how crazy it would be if one person just throws a shockwave and then hits everybody into storm. So I really don't like the shockwave removal, and I really don't like the Forsaken Bow Blade removal. But I can kind of see where they were maybe coming from in regards to the Stick of Truth gameplay element. I also don't really care for the Stick of Truth element. I would rather the game just be normal. But if they want this to be a big focal point of the South Park update, everyone just shockwaving each other into zone probably would have been pretty dumb. You can still accomplish a similar thing with the Crash Pad Juniors, but it's not as aggressive as the shockwaves would be in that situation. And I believe this is also why the Cheesy Poofs only heal white health, because initially I looked at the Cheesy Poofs as a very mid item. Like, why would this matter at all? I don't really care to carry an item for white health specifically. Typically, I want to carry a shield item. So I was disappointed in Cheesy Poofs. But when the Stick of Truth is activated and then you have a lot of people in this small zone, you might be in some more situations where you need to play Storm, or playing Storm would be beneficial to you. So having the Cheesy Poofs heal up to 300 white health and do so pretty quickly makes it an item that is very good for those situations. So it's not something I would want just regularly playing the game. But in a Stick of Truth endgame, having the Cheesy Poofs may be the difference maker in you winning or losing that game. So when the Stick of Truth is activated, you will get notifications about it being activated, and you might want to like swap some different items around accordingly. And you do need to be in a hurry to kind of get where you need to go, because 5 minutes to potentially get across the map entirely doesn't leave you with very much time to play with or kind of dilly-dally with. So I think the Stick of Truth is kind of the main huge change with this. And then everything else is kind of minor. There was also an invisibility splash, which will turn you invisible for 30 seconds. And it's thrown like a chug splash would be. So anybody in the area where it's thrown will be turned invisible. So you can hide your entire team this way. This is another thing that isn't the most meta defining item, but in situations where the Stick of Truth endgame is happening, it probably will be pretty helpful. But I don't know if I would want to carry it specifically just for that. Like the Kenny respawn coin, it affects the game, but it's not drastic. Cheesy Poofs, it affects the game, but it's not drastic. But the Stick of Truth completely changes the game in the matches when it spawns. I don't know if it has 100% spawn rate, because I played several matches today that didn't have it spawn at all. But you never know with Fortnite if it just wasn't active up until that point. The last few games I played all had it. So I don't know if it's a chance or guaranteed, but it's not like the chance is incredibly minuscule. It is something you will see probably a good amount throughout your play sessions. There also were some balance changes in this update, but none of them were completely like redefining. So the Deadeye AR got nerfed in several ways. It got increased recoil and increased hipfire spread. Neither of these I noticed that much, to be honest. Like the recoil, if they didn't say anything about it changing, I don't think I would have noticed. And then hipfire spread is also kind of hard to notice. It also got decreased damage range. Again, something that's somewhat difficult to notice. The TAC AR and Hollow Rush SMG also both got increased damage range. So the damage base remains the same. It's just not going to fall off as drastically at range or as soon. So those were the balance changes. Like I said, none of them were really that big of a deal. I feel like the biggest changes in this update were the Stick of Truth, the Shockwaves being vaulted, and the Forsaken Vow Blade being vaulted. All of those things really changed the game. The DeLorean was still in the game. I saw it today while playing. That was something I got asked about a few times. And then with Winterfest ending, the additional loot and like Christmas trees that were around the POIs have also been removed. So each POI has less loot than it previously did, which is going to make it harder to get something like crash pads, with them being kind of the main mobility item currently with the wingsuit. But as far as like combat mobility goes, the crash pads are going to be the clear choice. But that is going to be it for this video. Very interesting update. Personally, not my favorite, but let me know down in the comments below what you think. If you enjoyed this video, found it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.